Do me a favor, hit that like button as you come in. Say what's up in the chat. Normal rules of engagement for this Wednesday, everybody. Happy Wednesday. When you come into the chat, make sure you be respectful. Make sure you're cordial with your response. Make sure you keep it short so you don't flag the AI mod. I will not censor you or block you unless you're disrespectful towards mod supporters or subscribers. So just try not to do things like that so you don't get yourself blocked out of the chat. But nonetheless, welcome to the daily live stream. Let's jump right in. Okay, so let me go and pull up for you guys what we'll be looking at. Let me find it here. All right, so we got a couple things up. Per the thumbnail and then the title, you guys can see some of what's going on. So I want to first say shout out to the Mic Drop Barbecue. I actually reached out to Jeff today. I watch his channel quite often. He's a channel I watch on the side. Mic Drop, he does a lot of different content, right? He does a lot of evergreen content, but then he also does like sometimes content on like different things, different people, different news on YouTube. So shout out to Mic Drop. Because I watched him, I was actually able to find this video. And I haven't really seen any YouTuber that reacts to the things I react to with this type of list, right? Like I haven't, normally I would probably see this from maybe like a Ben Shapiro or Candace Owens or Theo Vaughn. I mean, somebody, right? But I haven't really seen this list. It's allegedly, right? But we're going to be looking at Maduro list of politicians that allegedly took bribes from Venezuela. So you guys will get a chance to see and hear from Mic Drop today. Then we'll go over to Bakari Sellers. Shout out to him, anchor on CNN. He said, Trump threatens the hemisphere. What's next after Venezuela? So before we get to Bakari, we have KSBW News that cover graphic video shows ICE agent fatally shooting woman in Minnesota. So we have that. We have the ICE officers killing an American citizen. We'll take a look at that. Keith Edwards also covered that, so we'll bring him on in to see his commentary. Forbes Breaking News also covered Rubio asked point blank, does the U.S. intend to buy Greenland? So he answers that question for them. I don't know why they made a big deal out of this question. We already know that President Trump has had plans for Greenland for quite some time now. And I've reacted to this on a live stream a couple times why Greenland is important, because what is in between and what it means for the U.S.'s protection against Russia. So we'll take a look at that. And then we got, what did I say? Yeah, we got Rubio, ICE. Yeah, I think so. Okay, that's the order that I want us to go in then. I know I wanted to look at some of what some of the Colombians are saying because we covered that last night. I might bring one of these videos into it for you guys. All right, I'll put this one right here. All right, guys, so let's jump into it. I think we'll do the ICE killing an American citizen first. God, I hate that has to be in my title. ICE is ridiculous. All right, guys, let's jump into that video.
One of the more recent cities of late targeted by the Trump administration's sweeping immigration crackdown. There were protests after the shooting. It happened about a mile from where George Floyd was killed by police in 2020. Our Washington correspondent, Jackie DeFusco, is live with more details and reaction from the administration. Jackie?
And Dan, good evening. We know that a driver was shot and killed today by an ICE agent in a residential neighborhood in Minneapolis. And already vastly different narratives are emerging about what exactly went down. So here's what we know so far. We reviewed a series of social media videos from bystanders from several angles. Here's one of them showing an officer approaching an SUV stopped in the middle of the road. The officer tells the driver to open the door, then grabs the handle. That's when the car starts to move forward towards another ICE officer who, as you heard there, fired at least 2 shots. Then the SUV swerves off, crashes to a stop. This incident now being investigated by state and federal authorities. Here is how Homeland Security Secretary Kristi Noem described what unfolded earlier today, followed by Minneapolis Mayor.
Okay, so before we go to Kristi Noem, because I really don't I really don't care for her explanation, if I'm honest. I'm not saying she's completely wrong, but I don't know if it's actually being spun as self-defense or what. My thing was that why were they trying to pull open this lady's door? Like, for what reason is that? Like, did they think that she was an illegal immigrant? Like, was she being detained? Was she in trouble? Like, why were they trying to pull her door open? Chat, if you know the reason why, drop it in the chat.
Jacob Fry.
It was an act of domestic terrorism. What happened, it was our ICE officers were out in an enforcement action. They got stuck in the snow because of the adverse weather that is in Minneapolis. They were attempting to push out their vehicle, and a woman attacked them and those surrounding them and attempted to run them over and ram them with her vehicle. An officer of ours acted quickly and defensively shot to protect himself and the people around him.
They are already trying to spin this as an action of self-defense. Having seen the video of myself, I want to tell everybody directly, that is
The officer was hit by the vehicle and hospitalized, but has since been released, according to the Trump administration. On Truth Social earlier, President Trump added this, quote, "The reason these incidents are happening is because the radical left is threatening, assaulting, and targeting our law enforcement officers and ICE agents on a daily basis." Minnesota's Governor Tim Walz, however, pointed the finger at the Trump administration, saying their policies have created an environment of fear and increased the risk of something like this happening. Tensions in Minneapolis were already high ahead of the shooting after more than 2,000 ICE officers were deployed to ramp up immigration enforcement in the city. And tonight, Secretary Noem says those agents aren't going anywhere, that operation will continue. Also tonight, Governor Walz of Minnesota is urging protesters to do so peacefully. As you saw earlier, those demonstrations have been building up following the shooting. And the governor also says that he has issued a warning order, essentially putting the National Guard in the state on notice to potentially deploy if that should be necessary. Live in Washington, I'm Jackie DeFusco, KSBW Action News 8.
Jackie, thanks as always.
Stick with me for 30 seconds as I show you the trading strategies I used that allowed me to quit my full-time job 2 years ago.
So because of this incident, right, I guess I can see why now it pissed so many people off. Because of this incident, people are calling for Kristi Noem to be impeached or removed, right? This is interesting to me because they're so pissed off. And I think it's because, like, the way she spun the story. Here's my thing, what I don't like. The ICE agents are just going to continue, right? She says it like they're just going to keep going full force. There's no investigation. There's no pause of anything. Like, I'm not saying that ICE should stop doing it, but because it's an American citizen, I don't understand why there's not, like, different rules of engagement. But I guess that doesn't matter to her. I didn't really care for it. I got to be honest, guys. I didn't really care for how this played out. So let's go to the next clip. Let's keep watching.
Further help from the federal government.
Yeah, before we go to Tim Walz, because right now he's probably going to stress everybody out, let's go to the next clip of the ICE agent, and then we'll go see what the mayor has to say. So let's see what Keith Edwards has to say about this first, because he covered it as well. Shout out to Keith.
Law enforcement and the safety of the public, fire, defense. Some really disturbing breaking news. We are learning that ICE has killed an American citizen. I'm going to bring you through ICE's statements. I'm going to have Kristi Noem's statements. And then I'm also going to tell you what people on the ground have said, which completely contradicts what ICE is saying happened. Now, let's get into this statement first, but I do have thoughts about why it is this way, why this happened. Now, Tricia McLaughlin said, today ICE officers in Minneapolis were conducting targeted operations when rioters began blocking ICE officers, and one of these violent rioters weaponized her vehicle, attempting to run over law enforcement officers in an attempt to kill them, an act of domestic terrorism. An ICE officer, fearing for his life, the lives of his fellow law enforcement, and the safety of the public, fired defensive shots. He used his training and said,
See, in that video, I don't think it looks like that lady's car is trying to kill an ICE agent. It almost looks like she's trying to get away from them. But, I mean, to you guys, if it looks like she's trying to run an ICE agent over, or if you saw the video from a different angle, just drop it in the chat so I can look it up and we could watch it. Because from this angle that I see with KSBW News, it looks like they were trying to open her door and she's kind of trying to flee and get away from them. But they're saying that she was trying to run the ICE agent over.
saved his own life and that of his fellow officers. The alleged perpetrator was hit and is deceased. From what I'm hearing, the person who was shot in the face. The ICE officers who were hurt are expected to make full recoveries. This is the direct consequences of constant attacks and demonization of our officers by sanctuary politicians who fuel and encourage rampant assaults on law enforcement. No. This is what happens when you put people into power with guns who have absolutely zero training or reason to be there. This is what happens when you put masked thugs in our streets with zero training. This is what happens. Now, we actually do know what happened, and it totally refutes this event. How fortunate that ICE was just protecting itself. Now, here is what
We're Phoenix Energy, a family-owned oil company focused on unleashing American oil from North Dakota.
Kristi Noem had to say.
Kids without fear. Yes.
Business owners across the Rio Grande Valley told me they're concerned about some of the sweeping ICE raids on work sites, particularly in construction, where sometimes workers with legal status are being kind of swept up in the process.
Also, notice this chyron from Fox. ICE-involved shooting. ICE-involved shooting. No. ICE killed an American citizen.
Delaying projects and hurting our economy. What is your message to these businesses?
Well, that's simply not happening. So it's just not true. We are focused on going after the worst of the worst in every community across this country to make sure that we're making our streets safer. And anyone who is a citizen of this country or is here legally has nothing to fear, has nothing to get out of bed in the morning to be scared of, because we are only enforcing the law. If you are in violation, if you have perverted one of our programs in order to be here illegally, absolutely, you may be held accountable for that action. But
what the fuck is she wearing? All right, well, you have nothing to fear if you're an American citizen, unless, of course.
The fact that that's his focus is hilarious to me. But here's the thing. She's saying as long as you're here legally, right, you don't have anything to worry about. But this administration, I feel like they've already proved that that's not true, because some of the things that we've seen. Now, this is somebody who I can criticize both sides and it doesn't matter to me. I mean, we've seen people who have voted for Trump who are pretty pissed off. We've seen people who haven't voted for Trump who are pretty pissed off. So we've just seen pissed off people across the spectrum anyway. So I don't think that matters at this point. When you sit there and you say, if you're here legally, you don't have to worry. And we see the opposite of that, right? We have seen some people get released, right? But we also have seen some people be deported, some people held against held for things that were absolutely ridiculous. So, I mean, it's been a mixture. And I think that's why the favorability rating, not really amongst Republicans, because if I'm honest with you guys, he's doing pretty well amongst Republicans. But, it's weaning against the general population, right? Definitely amongst Democrats, it's always been pretty low. But in general, it seems to be going down just, a small amount, except with Republicans, of course. They're going to present that united front.
Of course, you come in contact with an untrained ICE agent and they decide that you are worth killing. Now, she also said this, calling it domestic terrorism.
questions there. You asked about a shooting that we just had in Minneapolis, Minnesota. It was an act of domestic terrorism. What happened, it was our ICE officers were out in an enforcement action. They got stuck in the snow because of the adverse weather that is in Minneapolis. They were attempting to push out their vehicle, and a woman attacked them and those surrounding them and attempted to run them over and ram them with her vehicle. An officer of ours acted quickly and defensively shot to protect himself and the people around him. And my understanding is that she was hit and is deceased. We're continuing to gather more information, but this goes to show the assaults that our ICE officers.
By the way, if you have, I'm sure there is footage of this incident. I'm sure of it. If you have it, put it on Google Drive and send it to me. My email's in the description of this. If you know someone who might have been at this protest, please, we need to get this information out, because what these people are going to try to do is try to confiscate phones, delete videos, and the best thing you could do right now is get this on the internet quickly, because what they're saying versus what happened, I'm positive, are two different things.
Our law enforcement are under every single day. These vehicle rammings are domestic acts of terrorism. We're working with the Department of Justice to prosecute them as such. We will continue to protect our ICE officers and in cooperation with other law enforcement agencies as well. You've seen me in the last couple of days deploy over 2,000 more officers to the Minneapolis area.
Does that make you feel safe? 2,000 more of these people out there? Jesus Christ. Okay. And then I'm going to give you one more update, and then I'm going to give you some live updates from local news who we can actually trust.
Groups here that are still in the area. And we actually just got a statement from ICE as well. I think we can put that up for you here, where ICE
I bet you it's
says,
the same
quote,
statement.
ICE officers in Minneapolis were conducting targeted.
Yeah, it's the same statement. Okay, so here is what we know so far. And this is Fox 9. It's local news, so we can trust it. It says here that Governor Walz says that the Department of Public Safety is working to learn more about the ICE-related shooting, and said that we will share information as we learn more. In the meantime, he's asking people to remain calm. Now, the mayor of Minneapolis is saying that the presence of federal immigration enforcement agents is causing chaos in his city, and he is demanding ICE to leave the city immediately. And he stands rock solid with immigrants and refugee communities. Now, agents, we're told, were using a chemical irritant after the clash with protesters. A group of agents moved past a crowd of protesters to get in their squads. As they passed, some members of the crowd threw snowballs, and it appeared agents deployed some type of chemical irritant, like pepper balls. Members of the community...
See, and this part right here that Keith's about to read, this is where a lot of the problem comes from. Members from the community surround the ICE trucks. And, you know, a lot of government officials have been saying this, like, listen, don't impede ICE, don't intrude, like, let them do their job, don't surround their trucks. But I think because of some of just the poor videos that we've seen put out there, that's why there's so much outrage. I reacted to this so many times on the live stream, and I'm like, dude, if we're at a point where we have U.S. citizens trying to mess up ICE, like trying to mess up ICE vehicles and ICE property, it's because they're pissed off about the way ICE is going about things, right? Because you even have people who voted for Trump feeling like this at this point. I could see if it was just only the Democrats doing that or only the left, I would say, yeah, it's probably the majority, if I'm honest. But we already have seen the right. We've already seen people on the right be pissed off about it. We've seen people who voted for Trump say, I don't like the way ICE is handling people. You know, why there's such demand handling when you go to arrest them. So I think people are just outraged because the way that ICE has went about doing their job.
Momentarily surrounded the squad, a white truck preventing the agents from leaving until agents could clear them out.
Murder someone! You're murderers! You fucking assholes! Get the fuck back to where you came from! Get the fuck out of our city! Get the
I hate these
fuck
guys.
out of our city! Go the fuck home! We hate you! Terrorist tower motherfuckers, get the fuck out of our city! Get the fuck out of this neighborhood! We don't want you here! Everyone hates you! We all fucking hate you! Go the fuck home!
So it's like, even that, like them banging on the car door like that, like I'm not sure what happened, but that would not be a reason to kill someone. that would not be the reason to kill someone. I'm going to assume that's what.
I mean, I'm gonna agree with Keith on that, right? I'll agree with that. That's probably not a reason to kill someone. You have some people that are gonna be like, well, you know, if you're interfering with a police officer arresting someone, or you're interfering with a government official doing their job, then, you know, there is a chance that you could lose your life. And there is. You know, this is Keith's opinion when he says banging on a window is not a reason to kill someone. I wouldn't see most people getting upset about that, like most officers, at least to the point where they feel like they have to pull their gun out and kill someone. I feel like they might get to the point where, like, all right, you know, cut it out. Maybe they're shoving them, they're telling them to stop it before they get arrested. But yeah, I would say I would agree that because you're banging on the window, you don't have to kill someone. I mean, but there's a very fine line of, like, you know, banging on a window that's not yours because you're angry, and then maybe you break the window. Like, now there's a whole different scenario because now there's some destruction of property and now you possibly can be arrested. I just don't think it's a smart thing to do. Just don't touch the window, right? Like, because when it comes to ICE and you're going to have so many different people that have a different approach to this, and they're going to say you shouldn't be bothering ICE, let them do their job. You're going to have people like Keith Edwards say, okay, well, people banging on a window shouldn't mean that they have to lose their life in America. So yeah, it's just, you're going to have it coming from both sides either way.
What happened? Now, local authorities are pushing for an investigation. I hope they start immediately, because what local authorities, and I'm sure what the federal government try to say happened, are going to be two completely different things. Now, witnesses are denying the ICE statement. Fox 9 a woman got into a red vehicle. Witnesses told Fox 9 that a woman got into a red vehicle in the area of Portland Avenue and East 34th Street Wednesday morning. There was one ICE agent on either side of the vehicle trying to get in, and a third ICE agent came and tried to yank on the driver's side door. One of the agents on the driver's side backed away a little bit and then opened fire. Jesus. Shooting 3 times through the driver's side window. One witness said the vehicle wasn't moving toward the agents. Meanwhile, witnesses say a doctor who hit the scene and tried to help the woman who had been shot, but the ICE agents refused to let the doctor in to help. 10 to 15 minutes later, an ambulance arrived. It was blocked by ICE vehicles that had occupied the street. Witnesses said ICE agents then carried a, quote, limp body to the end of the street, and then the person was loaded into the ambulance.
You know, well, this doesn't make me feel any better, right? Because now it seems like this woman wasn't even able to be rendered aid, right? It seems like there was a doctor close by the scene that could have done it. ICE blocks the doctor. Like, then it's an ambulance. Like, what is going on? Like, Minnesota's crazy.
Let me show you something that makes me furious every time I see it. This is a real tax return from someone making $284,972 per year.
Here's a little bit of that eyewitness statement. By the street, witnesses said ICE agents then carried a, quote, limp body to the end of the street, and then the person was doctor in to help. 10 to 15 minutes later, an ambulance.
Yeah, so it's like they blocked the doctor, and then an ambulance comes and they block the ambulance. And it's like, why wasn't this person able to be rendered aid? See, this is the stuff I don't like, because what are they going to say here? Like, oh, because we just shot an illegal immigrant. Even if you did, like, someone's wounded, why aren't they able to at least get some aid? Whether you're going to, I don't know what you're going to do, but whether you are going to deport them or not, you have a person that's literally shot in the middle of the street, and you're blocking a doctor, and you're blocking ICE. See, this is the reason why people are so upset about it. This is why people are outraged about ICE.
Once arrived, it was blocked by ICE vehicles that had occupied the street. Witnesses said ICE agents then carried a, quote, limp body to the end of the street, and then the person was loaded into the ambulance. Here's a little bit of that eyewitness statement.
If you would, give me your name and kind of look over.
Verzana, ANA. When I heard all of the horns and the whistles, and I'd heard horns pass through before as people follow ICE vehicles through the city, but they stayed. They kept going, and so I figured whatever was happening right outside. So I started watching through the window. There was a red Honda Pilot, maroon. But there were two people in fatigues, ICE agents, presumably. One was by the passenger side of the vehicle, one was by the driver's side of the vehicle. There was a handful of black and white SUVs, license plates on some of them, front license plates removed, parked sort of kittywampus in the street. And I watched as a third person in full camo come and pull several times on the door handle, at which point the red vehicle reversed a few feet and started driving around, and the person who was by the driver's side originally, not the man who pulled on the door, but who was originally there, shot through the driver's side window 3 times, and the car drove down the street a little bit more and then swerved into a car, and then ultimately a cell phone pole.
Okay. Jesus Christ. Okay, so that is... Let us just review again what they said happened. An ICE officer fearing for his life, the lives of a fellow law enforcement, public safety, fired a defensive shot. He used his training and saved his own life and that of his fellow officers. And they're saying that because a violent rioter weaponized her vehicle attempting to run over law enforcement. It does not sound like if you're reversing, if people are in front of you and you're reversing, that doesn't sound like you're trying to run someone over. That person needs to be charged with murder.
That's what, so I see where Keith's coming from. He said murder. That's why I said shout out to the chat. We had Glue said there's literally a video from the right hand side where you can see him get hit by the car. I don't know what we're doing. So one of my mods said, are you referring to the ICE agent? Yeah, because we want to know that. Like, I'm with Keith where he says, okay, if people are in front of your car and you are reversing, that doesn't seem like you're being the aggressor, right? That's why I said it seems like this woman was trying to flee. It doesn't seem like she was trying to hit an ICE agent. But if you guys saw that from a different angle and maybe I didn't, then let me know that. But based on the things that I've seen, I don't really see where she's like trying to kill or run over an ICE agent. And that's the way that Kristi Noem spun the story. Like, you have to understand, she's spinning it this way so it looks like self-defense. So we have to be able to find something where the lady looks like she's trying to run over or kill an ICE agent. So at least we know, like, okay, she's not trying to make a story up. Like, the ICE agent really was defending themselves, right? I think the American people need to know that if we haven't already seen something like that. Marty Jackson, shout out to you. All right, guys, let's go to the next clip. So we're going to go over to now where it took place, where, lo and behold, Minnesota, of course. And who's the governor there? The guy who almost wanted to be vice president running alongside Kamala Harris. It says, breaking news, Governor Tim Walz activates National Guard following deadly ICE shooting. Here he goes. This guy wants a civil war. I don't think right now make me want a civil war. Why isn't this video?
The Wonder Oven Pro is an 8-in-1 non-toxic air fryer toaster oven. Now with
Good afternoon. Today I'm joined by Department of Public Safety Commissioner Bob Jacobson, Colonel Schaefer of the Minnesota National Guard, and Colonel Bogojevic of the Minnesota State Patrol. This morning we learned that an ICE officer shot and killed someone in Minneapolis. My deepest condolences to the family, to the loved ones who had to learn about this tragic event on national television. We've been warning for weeks that the Trump administration's dangerous, sensationalized operations are a threat to our public safety, that someone was going to get hurt. Just yesterday, I said exactly that.
See, this is what frustrates me. This is what frustrates me with Democrats, the left. I don't care what you want to call it. It's like, why does he have to come out like this? Why does he have to come out and say, like, we've been saying for weeks that this administration, it's like, why you can't just talk straight about ICE, right? We don't have anything. We're not talking about Trump right now. We're not talking about Pete Hegseth. Let's talk about the fact that in your state, a U.S. citizen got shot by an ICE agent. Like, why doesn't Tim Walz just start like that? Let's talk about the fact that today in Minnesota, a U.S. citizen got shot by an ICE agent. Instead, he starts off like, we've been saying for months and weeks, this administration, this guy, he drives me nuts, man.
We're seeing is the consequences of governance designed to generate fear, headlines, and conflict. It's governing by reality TV. And today that recklessness cost someone their life. I've reached out to Secretary of Homeland Security Kristi Noem, and I'm waiting to hear back. Let me be clear. Donald Trump and his administration may not care much about Minnesota. That's been pretty evident. But we love this state. We won't let them tear us apart. We'll not turn against each other. To Minnesotans, I say this. I feel your anger. I'm angry. They want a show. We can't give it to them. We cannot. If you protest and express your First Amendment rights, please do so peacefully, as you always do. We can't give them what they want. The hearts and minds of the people in this state are on our side. To Americans, I ask you this. Please stand with Minneapolis. To Minnesotans, know that our administration is going to stop at nothing to seek accountability and justice. The State Bureau of Criminal Apprehension are working on the investigation. We have activated the State Emergency Operations Center. State Patrol and Minnesota National Guard leadership is connected with the Minneapolis Police Department, the St. Paul Police Department, Hennepin County Sheriff's Office, the DNR, and Minnesota's Homeland Security and Emergency Management. We have activated dozens of members of the State Patrol's mobile response team. And from here on, I have a very simple message. We do not need any further help from the federal government. To Donald Trump and Kristi Noem, you've done enough. There's nothing more important than Minnesotan safety. I've issued a warning order to prepare the Minnesota National Guard. We have soldiers in training and prepared to be deployed if necessary. I remind you, a warning order is a heads up for folks. And these National Guard troops are our National Guard troops. They're teachers in your community. They're business owners. They're construction professionals. They are Minnesotans. Minnesota will not allow our community to be used as a prop in a national political fight. We will not take the bait. We will continue to update you, Minnesota, as we get more information. Now I'd like to turn it over to Commissioner Bob Jacobson of the Minnesota Department of Public Safety.
Thank you, Governor. As the Governor mentioned, my name is Bob Jacobson. It is my honor to serve as the Commissioner of the Minnesota Department of Public Safety. First of all, I want to acknowledge the reason that we are all here. The loss of life is not anything anyone would ever want. We fully expect that the community will want to peacefully demonstrate their anger or frustration. Minnesota residents and visitors have the right to peacefully demonstrate. We recognize that demonstrations are often driven by strong emotions, beliefs, and certainly a desire to be heard. Our role is to help ensure everyone can express themselves without anyone getting hurt. The Minnesota Department of Public Safety's role through the Minnesota State Patrol is to ensure safety, protect constitutional rights, keep roads accessible, and above all, to prevent harm. Our top priority is public safety. Our focus is keeping demonstrators, community members, drivers, and law enforcement safe, especially during moments of heightened tension or uncertainty. Demonstrations must remain safe and lawful, particularly around roadways. We will join with our partners to support safety while respecting the right to protest. With that in mind, I'd like to share a few safe and lawful ways to demonstrate. Minnesotans can safely and legally express their views in many ways, including getting together peacefully with others in public spaces,
I'm not gonna lie to some of you guys in the chat that are like, why isn't this man in jail? Like, I won't lie to you. I kind of do agree with this. I kind of agree with you because honestly, we're already on this point where we see Tim Walz talking about activating the National Guard because of ICE. But it's like we have no explanation about what's going on with like these Somali daycares, with this Somali scam. Like, he doesn't talk about it. All he comes on and he says that the Trump administration is trying to destroy our state. They're trying to interfere with our peace. And it's just like, Tim, tell us what you're doing over there. Like, we literally have seen videos where people are trying to call a daycare center and it's going to your office. Like, Tim, it's fine. We didn't vote you in as vice president. So you can tell us what you're doing over there. We know you're doing something. That's why people in this chat and in my last chat and my chat before that, they're all like, why is Tim Walz not in jail yet? Why is like everybody feels like he should be arrested?
Marching or walking, not on roadways. Making your voice heard through chants, speeches, and displaying signs. Being present in public areas where pedestrians are allowed. Gathering in designated or permitted areas. And these actions will allow people to express themselves while protecting the safety of everyone involved. Unsafe or illegal actions could result in fines or arrests. Certain behaviors create serious hazards that threaten public safety, disrupt emergency services, or put people at risk. These actions could result in fines or arrest. Demonstrating on or entering a freeway on foot, walking on highways, throwing objects, starting or setting fires, damaging property or graffiti, using illegal fireworks, displaying or using illegal weapons, reckless or dangerous driving, especially near pedestrians, and certainly assaultive, aggressive, or riotous behavior toward anyone. We all want definitive answers to what happened today. Our Bureau of Criminal Apprehension is working in conjunction with the FBI to investigate this morning's shooting. As you know, we don't comment on active investigations, but also keep in mind that this is an investigation is also in its infancy. So any speculation about what had happened would be just that. And we will not engage in speculation. With that, I will turn it back over to the governor. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner. We'd be glad to take any questions. Yeah, and I can let General Schaefer talk about this. It so happens it's a training weekend. We've got about 7,500 troops in training at our sites, training sites across the state. What it is, and in the National Guard, you give a warning order, which is a heads up of something could be coming. That just allows people to think about what they would need, what it would mean to mobilize, what it would mean to put them in. And I could let the general talk a little bit about this. Obviously, since the summer of 2020, we had a lot of work done on teams being ready to make sure that civil unrest, and what that means, and I think Commissioner Jacobson was very clear, and I want Minnesotans to hear this from me. The desire to get out and protest and to speak up to this administration of how wrong this is, that is a patriotic duty at this point in time, but it needs to be done safely. And I think the commissioner simply just laid out some of those parameters. We can do that. This is the peaceful resistance that we need. Simon, you want to say a few things about what that means to have them on the ready?
Yes, sir. Thank you, Governor. So for the military, Minnesota National Guard is comprised.
And you have to ask yourself, like, how are they spending this, right? This is the peaceful resistance that they need. I think if we saw something like this happen in Chicago, New York, California, nobody would be shocked, right? But why is this happening in like small Minnesota? This is why people are saying lock Tim Walz up, because there's so many things that are starting to come out of Minnesota. It's not like I'm saying it in particularly. We see it. That's why we react to the things we react to at night and in the afternoon, so we can kind of see where things are going. And a lot of people have questions, like when it comes to things that have been going on with Tim Walz lately. I do believe this is primarily the reason why he's choosing not to rerun for governor, because I think that he believes that he either won't get it or something's going to come down from this administration to where he gets in trouble.
13,000 soldiers and airmen. We live all across and work throughout Minnesota. A warning order is just an initial step to increase your preparations. The Minnesota Guard is always prepared to respond and support state agencies and the citizens of Minnesota. So what that means for us today is just some additional checks on equipment that is ready at all times, and maybe some additional phone calls to service members who might be activated, but no activations. We are embedded with our state agencies here at the Operations Center to just continue parallel planning in the event that we are needed to support.
And I would make note, Mary, and to Minnesotans on this about the National Guard, they're there to protect you and protect your constitutional rights. These are our neighbors. They don't wear masks. They don't bust in from somewhere else. They're not here to cause hassles to you.
The truth is, making more income isn't actually going to make you wealthy. Structure does. And I learned.
All right, before I go to that list of politicians by Maduro, I want to see something regarding this. She was attempting to run over the officer. I mean, it's already, man, I tell you, when they spin stuff, they do it fast. Because you can already see it everywhere where it says it like that. Basically, like the woman's trying to run them over. So that's what we're going to find. DHS says woman killed after vehicle weaponized during... that's why I'm just like, dude. I'm telling you. I better find something where she's trying to run this dude over. Or else their spin is crazy work. How the way they did that. Alright guys, hold on. Let me pull this up for you.
WCCO News starts now with breaking news.
And we are continuing this breaking news coverage. I'm Heather Brown. This is Barrett Leone here. Just to recap what we now know. A shooting has happened in South Minneapolis. This is on 34th and Portland Avenue South. This is the map here you can see of what happened. We have just learned from the Department of Homeland Security that an ICE officer shot a woman in that area, and that woman has now died. ICE officers are reporting that this woman, this is a quote from Tricia McLaughlin, who is reporting that ICE officers in Minneapolis were conducting targeted operations when rioters began blocking ICE officers, and one of these violent rioters weaponized her vehicle, attempting to run over our law enforcement officers in an attempt to kill them, an act of domestic terrorism. Again, that woman is dead. This woman is dead. And now this happened about 9:30.
So they're saying that she ran him over in an attempt to kill him in an act of terrorism. Wow. That's what this is, huh? Okay. I honestly don't know how to feel about this right now. Because some of you guys are saying, who's saying? Otis is saying it too. Like, Otis, if you have the clip, drop it in the chat, bro. Like, if you have a clip like that, drop it in the chat. Because I'm going to try to find it. Like, literally, if the lady ran over the guy, then she tried to run over the ICE agent. I have no problem saying that that's what actually happened. But if it's just, like, if the story's getting spun like that, that's literally crazy work, dude. Like, that's crazy work. Tech support said they killed that lady for no reason. Yeah, it's like, I want to tech support, like, that's what I'm trying to find out. Like, I want to see if somebody has a video to that, because everywhere I look, you know, of course they're only going to show the most convenient angle. But my thing is that if the lady actually did, like, tried to kill the ICE agent, I would want us to see that, because at least at this point, if they're saying like, hey, this was an act of domestic terrorism, no one's going to get upset about it. Like, no one's going to get mad at ICE about it. But if you're just spinning this story, if you're just putting a spin on this, and this is not what happened, and Kristi Noem actually came out and said that, there's people already calling for her removal because they think she's lying. So that's why, like, we just watched Keith Edwards' video, and he says, listen, if people are in front of your car and you're putting your car in reverse, like, to me, that doesn't make you the aggressor. It does look like you might be trying to flee, But I don't think I would call you the aggressor if you're going in reverse. Now, if you're trying to run the people over, which means you would be going in drive, then that makes sense. But let's keep listening.
This morning, and since that time, sir shot a woman in that area, and that woman has now died. ICE officers are reporting that this woman, this is a quote from Tricia McLaughlin, who is reporting that ICE officers in Minneapolis were conducting targeted operations when rioters began blocking ICE officers, and one of these violent rioters weaponized her vehicle, attempting to run over our law enforcement officers in an attempt to kill them, an act of domestic terrorism. Again, that woman is dead. This woman is dead. And now this happened about 9:30 this morning. And since that time, people from the community have been coming into that area. We have seen clashes with people and with law enforcement in that area. Let's get to our Adam Duxter, because he's been there from the start. Adam, we understand that the Border Patrol, that the ICE officers have been taken away from the situation, but still plenty of emotions running high.
Yeah, good afternoon, Heather. I'd say there's still probably about 200 to 300 people out here right now. We learned that this started today roughly around 9:30. I talked with a couple of neighbors here on Portland who say the first thing that they heard was the whistles that are so common at these ICE raids and where ICE activity is. That is demonstrators or protesters blowing those whistles to alert their neighbors that there is ICE activity happening. And then I was told that they saw a Honda Pilot, which you could still see down Portland here. And what neighbors described to me was that Honda Pilot was blocking multiple federal agents. And at one point, a federal agent attempted to open the door of that Honda Pilot. And that's when we're told the car reversed and then went into drive, which is when we're told that federal agent fired 2 to 3 shots directly in the vehicle. And we talked to neighbors who say they saw a person taken out of that vehicle. They saw paramedics attempting CPR on that person. We were told at one point that there could have been an issue getting paramedics or an ambulance into that person to provide help for them. And eventually that person was carried away from this scene. Now, Heather, you mentioned...
See, look how they're reporting the story compared to how we read it with Keith. Now, they're saying that, yeah, there are some incidents that, there are some reports that say that possibly there was some traffic, so that's why, the paramedics couldn't get through. Keith just read the story where there was a doctor close to the scene that tried to render aid. ICE blocked them. An ambulance came 10 to 15 minutes later. ICE blocked them. But look at how CBS is reporting it. Oh, there was a little bit of traffic and no one could get through. Just stupidness. My gosh.
Mentioned the clashes between people here on this scene and those federal agents. I'd say it was probably around 10:30 today when those federal agents were attempting to leave the scene, and there were people clashing with them right here on 34th. At one point, literally 5 feet from here, I saw a federal agent push a man down to the ground and pepper spray him, literally point blank, standing over him. And then there was another moment where there was a vehicle attempting to leave through an alley here off of 34th. There's a group of probably 5 or 6 people standing in the way, and federal agents got out of that vehicle, got up to those demonstrators, and again, pepper spray and tear gas at point blank range. Again, just an absolutely intense scene here, but it all started today around 9:30 today. And again, as you can see right now, it is Minneapolis Police and Hennepin County Sheriff that are essentially doing crowd control.
Dude, I can see them taunting, but I'm gonna rewind that. Do you see what the ICE agent does to that guy? He literally tried to spray him, and because the guy moves, then he also pulls him down. I'm gonna run it back and see it, but it's just I don't know. It's kind of crazy. On one hand, to me, it's crazy to see ICE like this, but on the other hand, it's crazy to see people taunting ICE like that as well. So it's kind of like a double-edged sword, dude. For instance, in the chat, Dennis said in the chat, shout out to Dennis, he's a regular. Dennis said, unfortunately, that person didn't comply. Could have kept it in park and just got arrested. Honestly, he's right. You know, like, even though some of us want to buck that and say, no, like, forget that. Like, why are you trying to, like, open my door, ICE? You know, and that's the first question I asked. I'm like, well, why are they trying to open the lady's door? But granted, if some of you guys are asking me right now, like, well, Q, what would you do if you were in that situation? Honestly, bro, with everything that I've seen on the news and I see how ICE is reacting, I would have did what Dennis said. You know, I would have just stayed in the car. I would have let them open the door and probably just take me out. I mean, not only am I a U.S. citizen, but I'm also a Marine. So it's like, we're going to have some problems if you trying to say I belong in Cuba or somewhere. You lying like hell. But at the end of the day, like, I probably would have reacted just like Dennis said. I probably wouldn't have bucked. Just knowing how they've been, you know, just seeing what we're seeing in the news. They're going to be done with it anyway. So it's like, just let them do whatever they got to do and, like, you know, let the process get over with. But some people are just like super paranoid. Their anxiety shoots through the roof when they have to deal with police officers or immigration or with ICE. So, you know, based on some of the videos people are seeing, that's not making it easy. You know, some people are just scared, so they're just making stupid decisions. Dude, I think we all can agree to this. I feel like I have some pretty smart subscribers and people that follow my channel. Did you guys know, but I think you guys would notice that literally when you're angry, like, you're dumber. I figured this out because I literally took my IQ test at 2 different times, and it's hilarious. I literally went from gifted to above average. So, and I was like, oh, this is amazing. Apparently, when I get angry, I'm dumber, right? So it's just like, but it's a real thing with anger having an impact on cognitive ability. So it's like, listen, or fear, right? Or even feeling like you're not safe or you're in danger, right? That fight or flight thing is a real thing. Like, I'm not going to say that I would have, like, fawned or I would have just froze. I just would have just remained, you know, for survival based on the things that I've seen. But some people, their form of it is like, oh, these people are going to kill me, so they're going to try to instantly run away. I'm not saying it's right, but now this is what we have on our hands.
Had people here on the scene say that there is potentially more federal enforcement happening not too far from here. And so a good portion of those people left. We can actually hear whistles off in the distance right now, again, notifying that there is some sort of federal activity, maybe even happening a block away. So again, we're told, Heather, just to remember, this week started what ICE is calling the largest federal ICE activity ever. They call it their largest enforcement of all time. 2,000 federal agents descending here on the Twin Cities. One expert told CBS there are as many Homeland Security investigators in Minneapolis alone right now as there is the whole state of Arizona. But this is how things go, Heather. Apologize for the language that you're hearing over the air right now. But again, very, very high emotions here. Neighbors incredibly shaken that this happened on their street. And one thing, Heather, that I really do want to emphasize and clarify, I did ask neighbors, I said, you know, what do you think led up to this? And again, they said there was some sort of federal enforcement going on Portland and 34th, or at least in the area here in South Minneapolis prior to this. And again, that Honda Pilot with multiple people inside was, we're told, in the way of here on the scene, say that there is.
I just want to run that back a little bit because I want to see what he's going to say about the Honda Pilot. But I think your name is Catch Bass, Be Happy. Yeah, bass. Are you really good at catching bass? Like, when you go out and you fish, how many do you catch? I know this one pastor's son, he's a monster at it. Like, if he goes out just in one day, he's caught like 10 bass before, but he's a really great fisher. But Catch Bass, Be Happy said the ICE agent had fight or flight too. That's a great point. I won't take that away. I think both people are faced with that in a situation like that, right? I think that's why some people get shot. Because police officers, ICE agents, right? They deal with the same thing that the person who is fearful is running, right? Or the person who tries to get away from them or is resisting arrest or tries to hurt them in some way. So I'm not saying like the ICE agent doesn't experience that. The ICE agent absolutely does. I think police officers can experience that too. I think experience and how long you've been on the job also plays a part in that. But most of the time, I think we can agree with like just the way mainstream media spins like just stupid clips and the way they put things out there. You know, they don't have a problem pandering to fear. Like, they don't have a problem making people afraid. This is so much the reason why I believe like I was called to do what I do on my channel now as far as like bringing news in a certain way where it's comfortable for people, where we can sit down, talk about it, watch it, and go over it. Because the news does that. Like I felt for years, it just wants to scare people. It just wants to only put out the bad stuff, right? Like there's nothing good happening, but we would always see mass shootings and mass murders and like butchering this and kidnapping that and sexual assault this. And it's like, that's why you have so many people that will say things like, I'm not going to watch the news because it's depressing. As I got older, I just realized not watching the news and not keeping up with, politicians and legislation and policy, it was a detriment to me. So that's why that changed in my life. Also, having served in the Marine Corps, I had a totally different outlook when it came to it. I might have hated politics a little bit before that, in high school, but after I joined the military, that changed drastically for me. So I do believe that ICE agents deal with, fight or flight as well. They're people too. And I think that that's why sometimes people get shot. I think that's why sometimes people get injured or wounded in certain ways where it might seem like the punishment doesn't really fit the crime. But that was a great point, Catch Bass.
Potentially more federal enforcement happening not too far from here. And so a good portion of those people left. We can actually hear whistles off in the distance right now, again, notifying that there is some sort of federal activity, maybe even happening a block away. So again, we're told, Heather, just to remember, this week started what ICE is calling the largest federal ICE activity.
Tech support. I know that law enforcement cannot be so scared. Like, you don't think I know that? I'm a trained Marine. I was never able to go into any situation afraid. You want to know what's also true? I'm a whole human being that is trained, right? But if you think that your training is going to override your natural instinct, you've never been in a crazy situation. You don't have to tell me anything. I already know that. There are some people that stuff kicks in, and it kicks in very well, but it's not everybody. That's why I said I think time on the job and experience matter. Dude, I've been side by side with people during wars that have frozen. You're talking about law enforcement's not supposed to be scared. Marines aren't supposed to be scared. Navy SEALs aren't supposed to be scared. And we still encounter things where we're like, holy shit. Like, it still happens because we are human beings, and we still face things where we can die, right? So the fact of the matter is, you're absolutely right. I have gone into situations where on the forefront, it looks like I have no fear. And inside my head, I'm like, am I going to make it out of this thing? Like, so yeah, I'm not saying that I was jumpy. I'm not saying I was trigger happy. I'm not saying that I couldn't think straight. I'm just saying everyone doesn't perform the same. You literally have people that you can train side by side with, and you guys could be put in the same scenario, and that person can absolutely freeze. And I've seen it happen before.
Ever. They call it their largest enforcement of all time. 2,000 federal agents descending here on the Twin Cities. One expert told CBS there are as many Homeland Security investigators in Minneapolis alone right now as there is the whole state of Arizona. But this is how things go, Heather. Apologize for the language that you're hearing over the air right now. But again, very, very high emotions here. Neighbors incredibly shaken that this happened on their street. And one thing, Heather, that I really do want to emphasize and clarify, I did ask neighbors, I said, what do you think led up to this? And again, they said there was some sort of federal enforcement going on Portland and 34th, or at least in the area here in South Minneapolis prior to this. And again, that Honda Pilot with multiple people inside was, we're told, in the way of multiple federal agents. And again, a federal agent, we're told, got out of their vehicle, attempted to open the door of that Honda Pilot while people were inside. The pilot, we're told, reversed and then drove away. And again, that's when those shots rang out. And one thing I do also want to emphasize, Heather, is that we are told, and I have personally seen, there is cell phone video of that shooting, and you can physically see and hear the moment when the shots ring out. We're told community advocates in the area have a copy of that video right now. Again, working to piece things along. We're hoping to get more information as the day goes on, but just an overall very chaotic scene over the course of the last 2 hours.
You need to stop throwing clothes in the dryer thinking it'll get rid of wrinkles. Who even uses a traditional iron these days?
I mean, I get what he's saying, Catch Bass. I get what he's saying, though. Like there is something to what tech support is saying, about the whole trigger happy thing. He's talking about discipline, and that's why I'm not discounting what he's saying, because there is something to what he is saying, right? Discipline is a huge thing when you're in these scenarios. So I can't get mad if tech's like, well, then don't be in law enforcement, right? I mean, that's the point of training tech. Like, they're supposed to weed people like that out. But some people, I'm just telling you, some things are ingrained deeply inside of them, and it's not until they're in certain situations where these things come out. Bro, listen to me, like, hear me when I say this. If I haven't been with my therapist for the better part of a decade, I would not even entertain this idea, because as a Marine, it is very easy for my mind to kickstart. Like, a switch goes off and there's just certain things I do not think about and I just act, right? But I'm literally trying to tell you, there are people that, because maybe there are things they haven't worked out in their life, there are triggers that they have that they don't even know. I'm trying to tell you, man, I've seen people on the job, whether they've been military police, civilian law enforcement, Marines, Navy SEALs, Army SF, dude, I've seen some of the best get in situations and just freeze. And it's not like they thought they were going to do that. It just ended up happening, though. It just ended up happening. All right, guys, so let's jump over to the next clip. So is this the witness?
They are already trying to spin this as an action of self-defense. Having seen the video of myself, I want to tell everybody directly, that is this was an agent recklessly using power that resulted in somebody dying. What they are doing is causing chaos and distrust.
That is Mayor Fry's message to ICE after a woman was shot to death.
Tech support. I'm not saying that he froze. I'm saying that that's why you see adverse reactions in situations, right? Some people freeze. Some people just shoot somebody, right? Some people just run a person over. Some people just graze them. I'm just saying. I'm not saying that he froze. I didn't think he froze from what I understood. But I'm just letting you know that, like, when you see people react certain ways in a situation, right, it's not always because they haven't been trained properly. Sometimes there's just other things going on. Bro, it's just life, man. I know you can understand this, Tech. How old are you? How old are you, Tech support?
By one of their agents today. Thanks for joining us. We start off the 4 today with that breaking news.
Homeland Security Secretary Kristi Noem says that woman was committing an act of domestic terrorism. Local officials aren't so sure.
This bystander video shows one angle of what happened, but we need to warn you.
Okay, so that works. So, like, we're literally only a couple years apart, right? Retired Navy. I was in the Marine Corps. Come on, man. Like, it's like you're trained. You seem like you got a good head on your shoulders. You know everyone doesn't react the same. Like, we're not saying the shooter froze or he didn't, the ICE agent froze or he didn't freeze. What we're just saying is that you see different reactions, even though you can train side by side with somebody. It doesn't mean that you both perform a certain way. You should, right? Like, we should. We all train together. We all get the skill set, right? We all go through the exercises and things like that. But we don't all graduate from boot camp. Come on, Tech. You know this stuff.
Could be disturbing for some.
I heard those shots, 3 shots fired.
Of what happened, but we need to warn you, it could be disturbing for some.
She's trying to run over the guy who's
of what happened, but we need to warn you, it could be disturbing for some.
And you heard those shots, 3 shots fired and crashed, and then witnesses running to help.
Of what happened, but we need to warn you, it could be disturbing for some.
Okay, so what officer are you guys talking about? The one that's trying to grab the door handle? Tech support says, what direction are her tires?
What the act of domestic terrorism. Local officials aren't so sure.
This bystander video shows one angle of what happened, but we need to warn you, it could be disturbing for some.
And you heard those shots, 3 shots fired and crashed, and then witnesses running to help. The woman who was shot died. Federal authorities say that driver was trying to run over an ICE agent. We're bringing you live team coverage of this breaking news.
We're going to start with Connor White in Minneapolis, who's been on the scene since the shooting happened this morning. Connor?
Good evening. This scene has turned somber. Some 8.
All right, Tech. I see the way that the vehicle is sitting, right? I don't see a ICE from this angle that they're showing us. I don't see an ICE agent in front of her vehicle, because when the camera pans, right, when it pans to the left, you can see there's nobody in front of her vehicle. I see an ICE agent on the side trying to grab the handle, and I see an ICE agent kind of behind it, like to the back left. So at first I thought she was going to run him over when she tries to back up. But I think they're talking about the guy that's trying to grab the handle. I'm not sure. Is he holding on to the handle? And like as she pulls off, she's like pulling the ICE agent with her. Is that what you mean? Because I don't see anybody in front of her vehicle. I see the way, the angle her vehicle's pointed at, but I don't see anybody in front of her vehicle. I see someone on the side of her vehicle, and I see someone behind her vehicle.
Hours after ICE shot and killed that 37-year-old woman who we've heard being described as a observer, not necessarily as someone who ICE was targeting. Now, we showed you some of that video already, but we're going to return to video obtained from that bystander that shows the moments leading up to the shooting. A neighbor here tells us he heard commotion around 9:45 this morning, so he came outside and started filming. Focus on the red Honda here. After it reverses and begins to move forward, that's when you can hear several gunshots. The car then crashes into others across the street. Now, DHS is claiming this was all in self-defense from ICE's perspective, but videos like this one led Mayor Jacob Frey to forcefully call that narrative, quote, garbage. The scene remained very active for hours, with angry protesters demanding local police arrest.
Now, I can see from where the bullet hole's at, where tech support might be talking about. She's pulling away. There's an agent in front of her car. Okay, the only reason why I say that someone could be in the front, you say in the front left, maybe that I can't see, is because I just saw the bullet hole. So, like, I can see where the bullet hole's at. They said she got shot in the face, I think it was. And that, yeah, someone would have to be in front of her, at least, not even partially in front. I would say they'd have to be at least 80% in front of the vehicle to get off that type of shot, right? So it's like, yeah, maybe I just can't, I don't see the person, but I think someone had to be in the front of the vehicle because I can see where the bullet hole's at.
One led Mayor Jacob Frey to forcefully call that narrative, quote, garbage. The scene remained very active for hours, with angry protesters demanding local police arrest the ICE officer involved. At one point, as federal agents tried to clear the scene, they did deploy tear gas and other chemical agents. The man who shot that video we showed you off the top here says he can't believe what he was seeing.
It does not seem to me any kind of justifiable use of deadly force. Like, a person was killed for basically nothing outside of my house. I've lived here for 2 years. I've never seen anything like this. The person was pulling forward. Nobody had to die.
After police left, some protesters followed police down the street back towards downtown. A vigil has formed in its wake with people grieving, crying, offering words of comfort. Some people singing here this evening as well. Now, the witness who showed us that video also described a race to try to help and get medical aid to the woman who was shot and ultimately died, shot and killed by ICE here. We'll bring you that perspective tonight at 5. For now, Connor White, WCCO News.
All right, thank you, Connor.
The person who invented this needs a serious raise. This thing is designed to disengage those tiny clips. We pop the hood.
Okay, so we see, based on a couple of information, like Tech showed us a couple of things where to look. He mentioned something about a BBC video, so I saw that. That's going to be right here. Tech, did we watch that one yet? Did I play the video for you, that BBC News video for you guys yet? Or did you just see it in my history? Dennis said no.
Administration and local officials over who's to blame.
All right, I got you. Yeah, Tech said not sure, but Dennis said no. All right, I got you, Dennis. Thanks. I'm going to play it now.
The Department of Homeland Security claimed the woman had tried to run over officers with her car and called it an act of terrorism. Minnesota's governor, Tim Walz, labeled the claims as propaganda, but President Trump, who's ordered the immigration raids, accused the victim of viciously running over the agent. Here's our North America correspondent, Nada Tawfik, and a warning that her report has images which you may find distressing.
Shame! Shame! Shame!
Minneapolis is the latest U.S. city to erupt after the Trump administration launched what it called the largest immigration enforcement operation ever carried out. Protesters were already on edge as immigration officers flooded residential neighborhoods and business areas. Then on Wednesday, the crackdown turned deadly after an ICE agent shot and killed a 37-year-old woman. The incident was filmed by those on the scene. Here, ICE officers aggressively approach a maroon SUV blocking the residential street, ordering the woman inside to get out of her vehicle before trying to open the door. She tries to drive away, but another agent opens fire.
Oh, yeah, I see him. I see him, Tech. I saw him right there. I don't know, where did he come from? I don't know if did he come out of the gray F-150, but I do see him though, because I see the guy come to the back left. I see the one guy come to the door handle, and then right when she's like about to pull off, you can see an agent like right there in the front left where that bullet hole's at. Yeah, I didn't see him. Okay.
The residential street, ordering the woman inside to get out of her vehicle before trying to open the door. She tries to drive away, but another agent opens fire.
He's coming from the other truck. I see it. There's a silver truck right there on the right, and that's where that agent comes out of. That's how he gets to the front of her vehicle. Okay, all right. Shout out to tech support. That's what I'm talking about, man. Like, that's what I'm talking about. This is why I mess with you guys, and this is why I like my chat, and I tell you guys to interact in the chat, because I don't block you guys, and people get kind of crazy in my chat. I know you guys have seen it, but still, like, we see things, we learn things together, and that's why I said to you guys, I'm like, dude, if there was an ICE agent in front of the vehicle, I want to see the video. Like, I need to see that video. I'm not saying that the lady deserved to get shot, but that's just something that I would want to see.
3 shots are heard, and the vehicle loses control and crashes. Witnesses react in shock and anger.
Dude, you shot her! I'm trying to help! No!
You know, they pulled the person out onto the snow. There was some difficulty getting the ambulance through due to the number of ICE vehicles. They took the person away and started pushing people off the sidewalks.
The Homeland Security Secretary, an enthusiastic enforcer.
Yeah, Huey, I know why you're saying that, Huey, because in the video, you can see, like, she doesn't go forward first. Like, he comes from that vehicle on the right to the front of her vehicle, the front left. But she doesn't move forward first. She actually goes in reverse first and then tries to move away from that agent. So I can see why Huey says that. But I think me and tech support were visiting the whole fight or flight, fawn situation. And I didn't see that there was an agent right there in the front. So that's why we were talking about that part. Because, I was saying that it is possible that the agent could have been fearful that he was going to get hit. But I get what you're saying, Huey. Like, he was never going to get hit because he stepped out of the way. She reversed the car. But that doesn't mean fight or flight. That situation didn't happen in his head. That's not something we would be able to know.
Of the president's immigration raids accused the woman of an act of domestic terrorism.
What happened, it was our ICE officers were out in an enforcement action. They got stuck in the snow because of the adverse weather that is in Minneapolis. They were attempting to push out their vehicle and a woman attacked them and those surrounding them and attempted to run them over and ram them with her vehicle. An officer of ours acted quickly and defensively shot to protect himself and the people around him.
Minneapolis's Democratic mayor was blunt on his reaction to that assessment.
Having seen the video of myself, I want to tell everybody directly, that is bullshit. This was an agent recklessly using power that resulted in somebody dying, getting killed.
What we're seeing is the consequences of governance designed to generate fear, headlines, and conflict. It's governing by reality TV. And today that recklessness cost someone their life.
This is just the latest confrontation between the federal government and Democratic-led states. The fear is that the fury on the streets can now boil over.
Officials in Minneapolis had warned that this could happen. In fact, they said that President Trump wasn't trying to bring safety to their cities, but was trying to sow chaos and fear. President Trump, for his part, has weighed in. He said he watched the video and says it seemed that the ICE agent was acting in self-defense. So those real divides persist with this escalation in these immigration raids. But the message to residents from Minnesota officials is to protest, but to protest peacefully.
Did you lose over $75,000 sports betting on DraftKings or FanDuel? We may be able to help you get significant
Okay, protest, but protest peacefully. Man, I don't know, man. This is crazy, man. This ICE is ridiculous. So that's the video. That's why I played the video of Tim Walz for you guys, because that's the reason why he is activating the National Guard, because he feels like he is sick of this. This was over the top for him. And now he is just like disgusted with ICE, and he feels like he's doing a good thing. I'm like, this dude obviously won Civil War. But nonetheless, we'll keep an eye out on Minnesota, because we got a lot of things going on right now in Minnesota with, the Somalis, with ICE, with Tim Walz deciding again. Recently, he mentioned, I think it was yesterday, that he won't be pursuing the seat of governor any longer, that he's just going to focus on his next year in office and do what he needs to do. So we'll keep our eye on Minnesota. Let's move over to some Venezuela news. Maduro. So like I said earlier in the live stream, shout out to the Mic Drop Barbecue, somebody who I watch very often. You guys go over and watch his channel when you get a chance. Mic Drop makes a lot of evergreen content. I like the news he reacts to. I like some of the YouTube drama he reacts to. So you guys will have fun over at the barbecue. He's going to have a good plate for you guys over there. So I actually reached out to Jeff, but I didn't get a chance to hear back from him yet. I asked him if I could react to this video, because I appreciated this list that is a part of his video. So he has this list of politicians that allegedly took bribes from Venezuela. I thought that this was interesting because, the amount of Democrats on this list is nauseating. Now, I'm not going to say there's no Republicans on here. There are some Republicans on here, but I'm like, dude, he actually reads the list off name for name for name. Each name, he goes down the list, and it's alleged. I asked him about his source. Like, I know that he does not put garbage out there. That's one thing about Mic Drop. I do know. I know that he does his due diligence, so I do trust this video. So we're gonna take a look at this, because when I saw these politicians, and I'm like, let's see if I'm going to recognize anybody's name on here. And of course we did, right? But this is all allegedly, so let's just go over to the video. Shout out to shout out to the Mic Drop Barbecue. You guys go over and check out Jeff's channel when you get a chance.
Don't pull out any of your teeth. No matter how good dentures are, they can never replace your natural.
Another beautiful day in Arizona, but guess what? We got some issues with Venezuela right now. We have a lot of American politicians who are on the take. That's right, we got a bribe list. And in this video, I'm going to read you this bribe list. Because Republicans, man, y'all got something to answer to. All of this virtue signaling y'all been doing, talking about how the Democrats are committing fraud, and now we see why people are sitting around not talking about the fraud. Because half y'all are involved in it any damn ways. And I'm talking about some Democrats you'd never think was involved in fraud. Chuck Schumer, people like that. Republicans you would never think was involved in fraud. Tim Tillers, I'm like, come on, man. You guys got to do something.
Now, here's the thing. Because I react to news often, when Mike Drop said Democrats you thought would never be involved in bribes, and he said Chuck Schumer, I just laughed. Because Chuck Schumer's name actually wasn't surprising to me. Chuck Schumer's name is on the list. And his name wasn't surprising to me at all. Guess whose name is also on the list who I wasn't surprised by? Elizabeth Warren. I was like, oh, that's not surprising. So, yeah, let's listen to Mike Drop read the list.
I'm better. Because if this is how y'all gonna do it involved in fraud, Chuck about the fraud. Because half y'all are involved in it any damn ways. And I'm talking about some Democrats you'd never think was involved in fraud. Chuck Schumer, people like that. Republicans you would never think was involved in fraud. Tim Tillers, I'm like, come on, man. You guys got to do something better. Because if this is how y'all gonna do the American people, we got to get rid of y'all. Like, just vote y'all straight up out of there. Get some people in there. Trump said he was gonna clean the swamp. I think he's doing it at this time. Because the swamp is thick. It is a deep state involved with both sides of the coin. Don't just think it's been Democrats. Democrats are just doing it out loud and right in your face. They doing welfare fraud right in your face. They got big old SUVs and buying all these big nice houses right in front of your face. Republicans, they're a little more slick with it. But guess what? There's somebody over in Venezuela saying, I'm going to tell you everything. Here's the list. The list is out right now. A lot of Republicans, a lot of Democrats are on this list of people who are getting money from Maduro and cartels over in Venezuela. I'm going to read this list to you. It's not an easy list to read because I'm a Republican and I support Republicans. But seeing these Republican names on there kind of irritates me a little bit. Democrats, you guys were right. And I'm not saying you were wrong. I'm just saying you were right when you say it's corruption on both sides. It is. And Trump needs to clean the swamp. If you're a Republican and you're on this list, you're done. You should have to answer to that, to your constituents. You should need to answer to that. And you should probably step down if this list is confirmed to be true. If we can track the money and find out Republicans were taking payments from Maduro. Nah, you're undermining Trump. Trump is the president, the chief officer of America. And if you don't follow your chief, then you're in treason. That's treason. You're in violation of treason. Okay, I got this from a very important person. It says, don't know if this list is real, but it's going around. I just got it from blank in Las Vegas. Breaking news, Venezuela's former chief of national intelligence, Hugo Carvajal, has officially released every U.S. senator who is on the Venezuela list of politicians who have been receiving millions of dollars in kickbacks from the Maduro regime and Venezuelan drug trafficking organizations that make up his government in exchange for using their government positions and influence to undermine President Trump and Secretary of War Pete Hegseth's ongoing war with these narco-terrorists. Every one of these senators is guilty of providing aid and comfort to the enemy during a time of war, but as blood of their fellow American citizens. Hundreds of thousands of whom die of drug overdoses every year at the hands of these criminal drug traffic organizations that bring deadly drugs into our country on their hands. May each and every one of them be prosecuted to the fullest extent of the law, and may their names forever live in shame for their treason. Below is every U.S. senator on the Venezuela list. I'm reading them all, y'all. Lisa Murkowski, Republican, Alaska. Mark Kelly, Democrat, Arizona. Ruben Gallego, Democrat, Arizona. Alex Padilla, Democrat, California. Adam Schiff, Democrat, California. Michael Bennett, Democrat, Colorado. John Hickenlooper, Democrat, Colorado. Richard Blumenthal, Democrat, Connecticut. Chris Murphy, Democrat, Connecticut. Chris Coons, Democrat, Delaware. John Ossoff, Democrat, Georgia. Ralph Warnock, Democrat, Georgia. Brian Schultz, Democrat, Hawaii. Mazie Hirono, Democrat, Hawaii. Dick Durbin, Democrat, Illinois. Tammy Duckworth, Democrat, Illinois. Chuck Grassley, Republican, Iowa.
All right, now before I go back to that, because I'm going to rewind it, because tech support was asking some things, and I'm like, yeah, I can't say that this is basically something that is set in stone. But here's a good point to this, right? Most people, I would say, in Venezuela are celebrating, right? Because the type of dictator Maduro was, right? Notice I use the word dictator, not leader, right? But you have some people, some crooked people that were literally in bed with him, and they're not happy that he's got taken, right? So if you guys think that's not true, then you just don't understand the long-standing history of just like politics and corruption, right? There are some people that are upset about him, right? So why would a list like this even exist, right? Even when John's like, can't even spell, nope, not buying it, yep, siding with you, right? Or it's put out like that on purpose, right? Because could it be that someone's just angry enough that this happened, so they're like, you know what, I'm going to cause conflict within the U.S. government, right? I don't know where the evidence is at. This is what we see so far. But I'm not going to lie, I'm enjoying watching a lot of this stuff come out during this administration, whether it has to deal with the Epstein files, or it has to deal with the two-strike with Pete Hegseth, or it has to deal with now a hostile takeover of Venezuela. I'm loving every minute of it. Watching all of this stuff come out, it literally is like watching a movie.
Johnny Ernest, Republican, Iowa. Mitch McConnell, Republican, Kentucky. Rand Paul, Republican, Kentucky. Bill Cassidy, Republican, Louisiana. Susan Collins, Republican, Maine. Angus King, Independent, Maine. Chris Van Hollen, Democrat, Maryland. Angela Brooks, Democrat, Maryland. Elizabeth Warren, Democrat, Massachusetts. Ed Markey, Democrat, Massachusetts. Gary Peters, Democrat, Michigan. Elisa Slotkin, Democrat, Michigan. Amy Klobuchar, well, I killed that one, Democrat, Minnesota. Tina Smith, Democrat, Minnesota. Roger Wicker, Republican, Mississippi. Deb Fisher, Republican, Nebraska. Jackie Rosen, Democrat, Nebraska. Catherine Cortez Masto, Democrat, Nevada. Jean Shaheen, Democrat, New Hampshire. Maggie Hassan, Democrat, New Hampshire. Cory Booker, Democrat, New Jersey. Andy Kim, Democrat, New Jersey. Martin Heinrich, Democrat, New Mexico. Ben Ray Lujan, Democrat, New Mexico. Chuck Schumer, Democrat, New York. Kirsten Gillibrand, Democrat, New York. Tom Tillis, Republican, North Carolina. James Langford, Republican, Oklahoma. Ron Wyden, Democrat, Oregon. Jeff Merkley, Democrat, Oregon. Dave McCormick, Republican, Pennsylvania. Jack Reed, Democrat, Rhode Island. Sheldon Whitehouse, Democrat, Rhode Island. John Thune, Republican, South Dakota. John Cornyn, Republican, Texas. Bernie Sanders, Independent, Vermont. Pete Welch, Democrat, Vermont. Mark Warner, Democrat, Virginia. Tim Kaine, Democrat, Virginia. Patty Murray, Democrat, Washington. Maria Cantwell, Democrat, Washington. Jim Justice, Republican, West Virginia. Tammy Baldwin, Democrat, Wisconsin. At Galactic Jack. Yeah, this is getting pretty serious. Like I said, this whole list is alleged. Share this list. Let people know. A lot of people that are driving don't have time to read everything, so I read every single name for a reason. If you're driving and saying, Jeff, I ain't got time to read all the names, I read it for you. You cruise, you listen. If you hear the name of your senator, your congressperson on that list, you might need to start sending some messages. And I'm talking about Republicans too.
If you live in a Delaware zip code and have 0 DUIs in the last 5 years,
Okay, so like I said, all of that was alleged, but it was very interesting to see that list. But we've looked at a lot of things that are alleged, right? Before we actually knew what was going on, there were alleged things in the Epstein files, and now we have the release redacted files. Like, I'm telling you, this stuff literally has been a movie, like with this administration. It really has been. It's been very interesting to watch. So let's keep going. Bakari Sellers, shout out to him, CNN anchor. He covered Trump threatens the hemisphere. What's next after Venezuela? Let's take a listen.
Countries. He's warning that they could be next.
We need Greenland from a national security situation. Colombia is very sick too, run by a sick man who likes making cocaine and selling it to the United States, and he's not going to be doing it very long. Cuba looks like it's ready to fall. I don't know if they can hold it up. You have to do something with Mexico. Mexico has to get their act together. If they start killing people like they have in the past, I think they're going to get hit very hard by the United States.
It's all part of Trump's bid for the Western Hemisphere dominance, but just how far is he willing to go to achieve that? Here's what his top White House advisor, Stephen Miller, had to say.
The United States is using its military to secure our interests unapologetically in our hemisphere. We're a superpower, and under President Trump, we are going to conduct ourselves as a superpower. It is absurd that we would allow a nation in our own backyard to become the supplier of resources to our adversaries, but not to us, to hoard weapons from our adversaries, to be able to be positioned as an asset against the United States rather than on behalf.
Yo, hold on, chat. Shout out to Joe Snuffy. No, Joe, I actually hate CNN. Just like I hate MSNBC, and I hate Forbes, and I hate India Times, and Fox News, and everything else. But because they all like to lie to the American people instead of telling us the truth, we tend to watch both sides on here, and we piece everything together because, you know, they think the American people are dumb. So that's just what we have to do. Shout out to you, Joe.
Half of the United States.
Now, just imagine that he was talking about China, and then you see Taiwan is gone.
I just said that.
By that rationale.
How does that make any sense, though? Because China and Iran and Russia, they just lost a strategic partner in the Venezuelan
Let me explain why it makes sense. Let me explain why it makes sense. His rationale is, we're a superpower, and we can do whatever we want in our hemisphere. China says, we're a superpower, we can do whatever we want. Why would we let Taiwan sell natural resources?
Wait, you're talking about the Iran whose nuclear facility was just neutered
I'm talking
and World
about
War III
China.
did not erupt?
I'm talking about China.
The Monroe Doctrine.
This is the triad. This is the new axis of evil, right? They all work together. They're all in cahoots.
Hold on, Caroline. Just let's just take one at a time, okay? You're Taiwan, and suddenly China says, we're not going to let you sell chips to the United States. Why would we let you sell chips to an adversary? You're in our hemisphere. You're in our backyard. We're a superpower. We're going to just take you off the map. He seems to be laying the predicate there, Stephen Miller, since he's making policy in this White House. He's laying the predicate there for any country that sees itself as a superpower to do exactly what we just did. So how do we stop that?
But again, you're forgetting that those adversaries you just mentioned are already neutered by Trump's very strategic
China is
strikes.
neutered? How?
China is neutered because now one of its partners, Iran, is neutered because they all work together. They all collaborate
China
really well.
is neutered because Iran is neutered.
Do you think the message of this operation is that China will be empowered to attack Taiwan?
I'm just asking you to take what you said to the logical conclusion.
The logical conclusion, according to President Trump, is that he thinks we're in a new Monroe Doctrine where we control Western Hemisphere, China gets Asia, Russia gets Europe, and we split the world into three parts. Now, that makes no sense because in the 21st century, oceans are highways, not borders, but it's also a bastardization of what James Monroe must be turning in his grave right now because the whole Monroe Doctrine was about anti-intervention. It was about anti-colonialism. It was about Latin American countries being independent and sovereign.
How is this colonialism or imperialism? We don't exercise
He said
any
we're
sovereignty
running the
over
place
Venezuela.
and we're going to take their oil. That's the definition
he's exercising leverage over Maduro's
deputy, which is a good thing because, as you pointed out rightfully, she has a lot of skeletons in her closet, and she's very much.
So the point is, when China goes into the third world, they come with economic offerings and benefits. And
I do believe the vice president is exercising leverage, but her being a part of the regime is like, there's no doubt about that. That's the whole reason why I said on the last few live streams that I don't know how long the vice president will be in place, because I don't believe that. Well, I know for a fact that Trump doesn't trust her, right? Maduro put her in place, and Trump has said that time and time again. Like, she's working with Marco Rubio and Pete Hegseth, but he doesn't say it in a way where he seems like he's going to leave her there indefinitely. It's almost like she's there for a season, for some time, and then he's kind of probably going to axe her and put somebody else in charge.
Infrastructure, and we say, if you don't give us everything you got, we're going to kill you, okay? Which of those do you think is going to work over the long term?
Can we just back
We're
up?
driving. Do you know the Colombian president's poll numbers have gone way up in the last
Can
week?
we back up just a little
He's
bit?
the most popular leader now because of what Trump did. He's actually bolstering his enemies and driving them into our enemies' arms.
Let's back up just slightly, because you're right. But also one of the
That's the opposite of what he wanted to do.
But that's also one of the problems with this foreign policy that dates back. Nothing happens in a vacuum. And when we go back and we look at Elon Musk, for example, and we look at USAID, one of the problems that many people had when we talk about foreign policy was the fact that we actually had some soft power, right? We would go into these countries. We would do things like develop these programs, things that China is doing in this hemisphere that they still will be doing, things that China is doing in Africa, which we've advocated. We pulled ourselves out. So where is China growing their influence? Now, is China weaker because they lose 10% of their oil reserves? Yes. What does that have to do with the debt that our debt that China holds? Not much of anything. Is China still a superpower? Hell yeah. Will they flex their muscle against Taiwan? You bet against that if you want to. But I think we also have to look at a foreign policy that's run by tweet. We have a foreign policy that is disheveled. You all don't even have talking points about what the objectives were for kidnapping Nicolas Maduro. And the last part about it is, to your point, Democrats have to hammer this, and stop writing these long-ass tweets and essays. Like, he is choosing Venezuelans over Americans. He's choosing Caracas over the needs of these people, of our soybean farmers. We are actually talking about Greenland instead of inflation. Like, we're talking about
on Saturday, he said we're going to spend billions of dollars rebuilding their infrastructure, right? This is a man who campaigned largely as an isolationist, who campaigned about pulling back and ending conflict. And in the first year of his administration, we've bombed Iran, Yemen, now we've gone after Venezuela, as well as many others. I mean, this man doesn't see a problem that
Nigeria. It's just funny, like, listening to them on CNN, because to me, like, now, as someone who served in the military, I'm looking at it like, come on, guys, you can't downplay the flex either. Like, yes, President Trump did say that he wants to stop wars, that he wants to go out as a peacemaker. And if you ask me right now, how is he doing at that, I would say not great, right? But I mean, who knows what the last year or two looked like? I'm not really sure. I know right now it's about a flex, right? I know right now it's more about, like, he didn't want to look weak. He's not going to look weak. The guy's about money. He knows how to get it, knows how to make it. He did it in the secular world, so I don't know why we wouldn't think that wouldn't carry over into the presidency. I get it. Some people are probably like, well, we didn't expect him to be this asinine, or maybe we expected him to, like, have more attack. But I just don't think that's the case here with Donald Trump.
Nigeria, and he doesn't think he can bomb his way out of or use the military to do. And frankly, I'm sorry, as a 3-time combat veteran in Iraq and Afghanistan, I bristle when a 5-time draft dodger bangs the war drums in Washington, D.C., because when elites bang the war drums in Washington, D.C., what happens is some young kid in a rural town in middle America, in places where I grew up, has to pick up a rifle, jump into a tank, jump into a helicopter, and do the tough thing. It's never Donald Trump. It's never people like Stephen Miller. They never have to do this tough stuff. It's people like me and the people that I grew up with that have to do it. And America, again, is over all of this, right? They want peace. They want restraint. They want people to be smart about the use of power. Yes, they want toughness, but they want smart toughness.
Let me play a little bit more from Stephen Miller. This is where he decries that after World War II, we've been abiding by, the rules that we created after that war. Listen.
The Prophet ﷺ said in a hadith Qudsi,
For years, we sent our soldiers to die in deserts in the Middle East to try to build them parliaments, to try to build them democracies, to try to give them more oil, to try to give them more resources. The future of the free world, Jake, depends on America being able to assert ourselves and our interests without apology. This whole period that happened after World War II, where the West began apologizing and groveling and begging and engaging in these vast reparation schemes.
I mean, it's hard to know exactly what he's talking about, but he seems to be lamenting the idea that after World War II, we created a global order in which we said, hey, countries, don't run around invading each other. Don't depose people just because you can. Why is that such a bad thing that he wants to be gotten rid of?
So again, I say this with all due respect to your service, sir, and the perspective that you bring to this table, which I truly admire. But I really think this comes down to whether, the world, that post-World War world order was working or whether it wasn't. And if you were part of the elites in America, it was really working for you. And if you were working class, it really wasn't. Look at how far China got under that rules-based order. Look at what has been done to this country. The mass migration, the fleecing of the American working class.
Before you jump in,
it all comes down to whether you think that crime and drugs and mass migration were bad and an emergency or not.
Batya, let me ask you to answer your own question. How has the United States done since World War II? How have we done?
Well, we did great until 1971.
No.
Starting in 1971,
seriously,
the elites got very wealthy, and they ate up 60% of GDP.
How are we doing right now vis-a-vis the rest of the world?
I don't care about the rest of the world, Abby. I care about the American working class and the American people. I'll answer your question.
You just suggested that it was such a bad thing for the United States.
Yes.
We are
Deaths of despair.
the number one superpower in the world. We are the top economy in the world. We are the guarantor of peace in the world.
Hold on.
I understand that. Listen, income inequality is a huge problem, but there is no question, none at all, by any objective measure, that the United States was not the greatest beneficiary of the world order that we created after World War II.
Whose kids died of a fentanyl overdose, Abby.
We're not asking
sorry, but it is not been great for everybody.
Can you just give me a second?
Sure.
Thank you. Batya.
Yes.
Listen. There is income inequality in the world. There are drug overdoses and deaths in this country that are way out of control. But we're talking about the big picture of where we were at the end of World War II and where we are today. And the United States has guaranteed peace, prosperity, and security around the world for that entire period of time. And we have done it and been the primary beneficiary, not China, but us.
I want to answer.
The question I'm asking you and Stephen Miller is, what time period exactly are we going back to? Are we talking about colonialism?
Okay.
Do we want colonies? Do we want to invade Greenland? We want to steal it from a NATO ally? We want to dissolve NATO? What are we doing?
All right. So starting in 1971, working class wages stagnated. So working class people are making around the same amount of.
You think that's because
I want to answer your very good question.
But you think that
I want to
after
answer
World
this
War
very
II,
good question, Abby.
countries to stop invading each other?
Starting in 1965, we implemented a policy of mass migration to where the percentage of foreign-born Americans right now is higher than it's ever been in American history. That led to the disinheritance of the American working class that is very tied to our foreign policy.
So your code word of policy of mass migration is really what you're talking about, is that we stopped saying that only
we offshored manufacturing to China.
I'm just trying to decode.
We offshored manufacturing to China.
I'm not into the euphemisms here. If you're talking about 1965 and mass migration, what you're talking about is a policy that said that you don't have to be from Europe to come to the United States. You can be a talented person, a person with potential from
Abby, all the immigration restrictions before that were on Europeans, like Jews, who they didn't let in. Okay, so that's not right. It's not about race at all. It's not about Europe. It is about the difference between being an American and not being an American, and we sold that difference out through that post-war world order. And that is why people vote for Donald Trump.
The question is wrong. The question is wrong. The question is wrong. And the reason the question is wrong, respectfully for the past conversation, is because people at this table are attempting to articulate that somehow the working class in America has had a rough go at it, right? That's your argument, the working class. My question to you is, how does the presence of America in Honduras, in Colombia, in Cuba, or in Greenland help working class Americans?
Well, I would answer it for Venezuela. Okay, well, I'll answer it for you. If the regime is more stabilized, and I just said before that we do have a large amount of leverage over Maduro's deputy, even though she still represents a communist regime. But if it's more stabilized, there will be less migration pushed by poverty. I mean, they might have a chance at prosperity now.
But you didn't even do regime change, right? And you just articulated...
What do you mean by stable? What do you mean by stable?
It's the same government.
It's Maduro's government. So what's more
but we have leverage over that government now because we just abducted the dictator and took him to the United States.
But you recognize that
minimal casualties
you recognize,
to anyone.
But you recognize that the problem with the Maduro regime wasn't just Maduro, right?
The whole regime.
That's
That's
right.
the whole regime.
That's predicated on
And I
oppression, violence, narco-terrorism, the whole thing, right?
Listen, I don't think it's long-term sustainable to keep the deputy there. However, we've already seen Maduro's deputy say that she's going to start possibly putting resources on the free market, maybe implementing market reforms. That means communism could eventually end in Venezuela, which means less migration to America, which means less downward pressure on American wages, which means less disenfranchisement of the working class in America.
Okay,
wait a minute.
But hold on, can we back up?
We're taking our job, right?
They're not taking his job. They're taking the working class job.
Blue-collar working class jobs.
So your argument to the hardworking middle class American in, say, Detroit, Michigan right now, right, who is struggling for groceries, right, whose car insurance has gone up, whose healthcare prices have gone up, who don't have access to quality care, whose schools are failing, is that by going into Venezuela and taking the leader and abducting him, right, then maybe...
I feel bad because some people felt like Bakari was being way too emotional here, right? Like they felt like, you know, on one hand, Abby and the other lady are trying to explain to him, you know, strategic planning, mainly the other lady, and he just is kind of like more on the emotional side of things, like how is this helping the working class? But it's a practical question he's asking, right? Like he's asking, like, I get, like, okay, Trump's doing all this stuff, but like, what is that doing to help people that are going to work every day and things still feel insufferable for some people?
Actually having pressure on the regime that he had installed in Venezuela will change something in Venezuela, thereby eliminating some of the migration and migrationary pressures is going to help you survive in Detroit.
It's less competition.
You know, there are 5
huge industries, and also it's not just competition. It's strained on our social services and resources. Migration does cost Americans a lot, especially when it's unfettered like it was under the Bush administration.
Would you like
hospitals, schools, public services?
We do have to go to break. Next for us, it's the Secretary of Defense against a highly decorated Navy veteran and senator, how the Pentagon now wants to make one of its own pay for speaking out against the White House.
If you are sleeping in a position like this, you are wrecking your body and your breathing. Chronic neck pain happens when you're...
All right, so I want to head over now to, let's switch gears a little bit. I want to go over now to something that Forbes covered, Forbes breaking news. Rubio asked point blank, does the U.S. intend to buy Greenland? I'm not sure why this is a question because Trump has been talking about this forever. But, of course, some people forgot. So let's listen.
Mr. Secretary, on Denmark, sir. Mr. Secretary, on Denmark. Why has the administration not taken Denmark's offer to discuss the situation in Greenland? And
I'll be meeting with them next week.
Will you take military intervention off the table?
I'm not here to talk about Denmark or military intervention. I'll be meeting with them next week. We'll have those conversations with them then. And but I'm not having anything further to add to that today.
Can you clarify your
your comments to lawmakers? Does the U.S. intend to buy Greenland? Does the U.S. intend to buy Greenland? Can you clarify your comments to lawmakers this week?
Well, that's always been the president's intent from the very beginning. He said it very early on. I mean, this is not new. He talked about it in his first term, and he's not the first U.S. president that has examined or looked at how could we acquire Greenland. There's an interest there. But so I just reminded them of the fact that not only did Truman want to do it, but President Trump's been talking about this since his first term.
What put out a statement last night saying that the military option is on the table. Thank you, Mr. Secretary. The military option is on the table. So is the administration really willing to risk the NATO alliance by potentially moving ahead with military operations?
What I think the White House said yesterday is what I will tell you now, and I've always said. The president always retained the option. Every president, not this president, every president always retains the option. I'm not talking about Greenland. I'm just talking about globally. If the president identifies a threat to the national security of the United States, every president retains the option to address it through military means. As a diplomat, which is what I am now, and what we work on, we always prefer to settle it in different ways. That included in Venezuela. We tried repeatedly to reach an outcome here that did not involve having to go in and grab an indicted drug trafficker. Those were unsuccessful, unfortunately.
So here's the thing about Marco Rubio. How do you guys feel about how Marco Rubio handles his press conferences? Because I honestly, it doesn't tend to bother me at all. I mean, I usually say that he gets frustrated. I think he maintains his composure well, but he always at some point gets to a point where he's just like, I'm not really sure why this is hard for you to understand. The president has said this time and time again, like, what aren't you people actually listening to? So it's like, I think it's that side of Marco Rubio that I can find pretty amusing from time to time. All right, so let's jump into the next clip. We're going to go over to Marco Rubio confronts Schumer after Venezuela briefing as tensions flare on Capitol Hill. Shout out to DRM News.
I'm sorry, what?
Did you give a plan about how Venezuela could move towards democracy?
We heard aspirations about how it could move to, quote, stabilization, but the reality is the entire Maduro apparatus is still intact. And we know every regime is, if about nothing else, it's about self-preservation. So the United States has a lot of leverage with the oil blockade. But does that mean it has control? So what you have here is a situation where everyone is in great admiration of the capacity of our military and how they did something that was extraordinarily dangerous and complicated. But there is no answer about what comes next. Maduroismo is totally intact, and there is not a developed plan about what's going to happen. Now, the final point I want to make is that everything we heard in there, the American people should be hearing. There's no justification that anything that was said there shouldn't be said in an open hearing where the American public has total access to this major decision that has been made where we're heading in. We are in another combat situation.
Should Europe be worried about America's intentions?
Pardon me?
Should Europe be worried about America's intentions?
Europe is worried about America's intentions. Thanks.
Yeah, Tim and I made it clear that the public needs answers. Across America, people are just saying, what the hell is going on? We need answers as to how long this is going to last. We need answers to how many troops, how much money, are there guardrails, things we don't do. And a number of things that we had talked about were very troubling. I am totally dissatisfied about their answers of going into other countries, totally dissatisfied of what they might be doing in Greenland, as well as in Colombia, Mexico, and other countries. And we're also totally dissatisfied about succession. They're relying to help them run Venezuela, help Trump run Venezuela, the most unreliable, corrupt people who hate America. So this is fraught with peril. The American people, the public, not just in a classified room, the American people need answers.
And I'll just say this, and we've got the two cabinet secretaries here, and they heard what I said in that room.
We are 4 months into a sustained military operation. More than 200, quote, enemies have been killed. American troops have been injured. We have the U.S. forces arrayed around Venezuela, but neither the House nor the Senate have been willing to hold a single public hearing to put these facts before the public. Why not? We need to start doing our job. What they will do is get us in a classified setting where the leader of the Senate says, this is not for public consumption. And so the questions that we have about the legal rationale, we cannot discuss in public. The questions we have about the strategic rationale, we cannot discuss in public. About the targeting criteria, we cannot discuss in public. About what's next, is Greenland next, is Colombia or Mexico or Cuba next, it's very hard to discuss in public. We've got to get this discussion out of the skiff and into the public before it's too late.
The reason we need hearings, public hearings, is the Founding Fathers, when they gave the Congress the power to make war, knew that this is such a powerful and fraught with peril issue, making war, that a public discussion was required. They are avoiding all public discussion. To talk to us in the skiff, where we didn't get adequate answers even to our questions, but not let the American people know what they're doing, when it's the American people who have always paid the price when we try to do this regime change in blood and treasure. We need answers. We need answers to these questions, and we need them made publicly.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, let's hold them please.
The truth is, making more income isn't actually going to make you wealthy. Structure does, and I learned this the hard way. I've been over-leveraged.
I'm against everything you said. So,
Why are you saying this behind closed doors?
well, there's a lot of operational details that can't be discussed publicly, obviously, for obvious reasons. So, as we move forward, we'll describe our process, which is a threefold process in Venezuela. I've described it to them now. Step one is the stabilization of the country. We don't want it descending into chaos. Part of that stabilization, and the reason why we understand and believe that we have the strongest leverage possible, is our quarantine. As you've seen today, 2 more ships were seized. We are in the midst right now, and in fact about to execute on a deal to take all the oil. They have oil that is stuck in Venezuela. They can't move it because of our quarantine and because it's sanctioned. We are going to take between 30 and 50 million barrels of oil. We're going to sell it in the marketplace at market rates, not at the discounts Venezuela was getting. That money will then be handled in such a way that we will control how it is dispersed in a way that benefits the Venezuelan people, not corruption, not the regime. So we have a lot of leverage to move on the stabilization front. The second phase will be a phase that we call recovery, and that is ensuring that American, Western, and other companies have access to the Venezuelan market in a way that's fair. Also, at the same time, begin to create the process of reconciliation nationally within Venezuela, so that the opposition forces can be amnestied and released and from prisons or brought back to the country, and begin to rebuild civil society. And then in great detail, we'll have more detail in the days to follow. But we feel like we're moving forward here in a very positive way.
Some senators who were in that briefing describing your operation variously as that you're winging it, that there's no plan for Venezuela going forward.
Yeah, I know. They're going to say that. I used to be a senator too. That's what you always say when it's the other party. The bottom line is we've gone into great detail with them about the planning. We just
She said, I used to be a senator too, and that's what you always say. When it comes to the other party, it's interesting how now he has such a more prominent position and how honest he is about what happens below, right? He's like, yeah, that's kind of normal just to say that. I was a senator. We just kind of do that.
described it to him. In fact, it's not just winging it. It's not just saying or speculating it's going to happen. It's already happening. Like the oil arrangement that we've made with PDVSA on their sanctioned oil that they can't move. Understand, they are not generating any revenue from their oil right now. They can't move it unless we allow it to move because we have sanctions, because we're enforcing those sanctions. This is tremendous leverage. We are exercising it in a positive way. The president described it last night. Secretary Wright will have more to say on it today, who's involved in running this portfolio. And we feel very positive that not only will that generate revenue that will be used to the benefit of the Venezuelan people, and we're ensured that that's what the case is, but it also gives us an amount of leverage and influence and control over how this process moves forward.
Mr. Secretary, on Denmark, why has the administration not taken Denmark's offer to discuss the situation in Greenland? And
I'll be meeting with them next week.
Will you take military intervention off the table?
I'm not here to talk about Denmark or military intervention. I'll be meeting with them next week. We'll have those conversations with them then. And but I'm not having anything further to add to that today.
Can you clarify your comments to Robin?
Buy Greenland? Does the U.S. intend to buy Greenland? Can you clarify your comments to lawmakers this week?
Well, that's always been the president's intent from the very beginning. He said it very early on. I mean, this is not new. He talked about it in his first term, and he's not the first U.S. president that has examined or looked at how could we acquire Greenland. There's an interest there. But so I just reminded them of the fact that not only did Truman want to do it, but President Trump's been talking about this since his first term.
What? A statement last night saying that the military option...
You lost weight. You lost a lot of weight. Good job.
The military option is on the table. So is the administration really willing to risk the NATO alliance by potentially moving ahead?
Guys, what I think the White House said yesterday is what I will tell you now, and I've always said. The president always retained the option. Every president, not this president, every president always retains the option. I'm not talking about Greenland. I'm just talking about globally. If the president identifies a threat to the national security of the United States, every president retains the option to address it through military means. As a diplomat, which is what I am now, and what we work on, we always prefer to settle it in different ways. That included in Venezuela. We tried repeatedly to reach an outcome here that did not involve having to go in and grab and indict it.
And this is what Pete Hegseth has said from, not Pete Hegseth has said it, but Marco Rubio has said it a couple times, I can say more than him on record, where he has said, look, we tried to work with Maduro. We tried to offer him, some type of agreement. He was not willing, so this was the outcome, right? And Marco Rubio went on record to say that a couple times. As far as when it comes to Greenland, he shuts it down because he's saying, listen, President Trump has been talking about this for some time. So if you guys aren't aware of this, you just haven't been listening to what President Trump has said. He said this long ago.
Drug trafficker. Those were unsuccessful, unfortunately.
Venezuela, the people of Venezuela are waking up to the same regime. Do you not worry about that?
Well, first of all, the bottom line is that there is a process now in place where we have tremendous control and leverage over what those interim authorities are doing and are able to do. But obviously this will be a process of transition. In the end, it will be up to the Venezuelan people to transform their country. We are prepared under the right conditions, using the leverage that we have, which includes the fact that they cannot move any oil unless we allow them to move it to... Well, again, I'm not going to give you a timeline on it. We wanted to move as soon as possible. But we didn't expect this would... It's been 3 days since this happened, 4 days since this happened. So I understand that in this cycle in the society we now live in, everyone wants instant outcomes. They want it to happen overnight. It's not going to work that way. But we're already seeing progress. With this new deal that's been announced and more deals to follow, you're already seeing how the leverage the United States has over those interim authorities is going to begin to lead to positive outcomes. It doesn't cost us. It doesn't cost us.
The involvement, U.S. involvement in Venezuela, how much will it cost?
Well, it doesn't going to cost us any money. For example, this oil deal that's happening doesn't cost us any money. On the contrary, and if it opens up, well, look, I can't. I don't have the numbers. What operation are you talking about? The entire thing?
Yeah.
Well, these troops are going to be deployed. None of these troops sit in a dry dock waiting for action. They're deployed somewhere in the world. If they're not here, they're somewhere else. Just today, our forces not deployed to the Caribbean seized a boat, a sanctioned boat tied to the IRGC that tried to flee from us. That happened somewhere else. We are constantly involved in action. We have boats in the Mediterranean. We have ships in the Middle East. We have ships in the Indo-Pacific. These ships, if they weren't in the Caribbean, they'd be somewhere else conducting activity. That's what the Navy does.
I want to emphasize that question from CNN. The question never asked how much does it cost when they're in the Mediterranean or the Red Sea or the Indian Ocean or the Pacific. But now that they're in our hemisphere, on counter-cartel mission or ensuring that an indicted individual comes to justice, now you're asking the question of cost. It's a disingenuous question to begin with. You're trying to find any angle possible to undermine the success of one of the most historic military missions the world has ever seen. The level of sophistication that Senate just was briefed on, and the House was briefed on, the classified level, is something only the United States of America can accomplish. The world is taking notice of that. Certainly Venezuela is taking notice of that. And it continues because 2 oil tankers, 2 overnight, were seized by the United States of America, stateless or sanctioned, because the oil blockade, the quarantine of oil out of unsanctioned or sanctioned or stateless vessels continues. That leverage will continue, as Secretary Rubio outlined. So our military is prepared to continue this. As he said, the president, when he speaks, he means it. He's not messing around. We're an administration of action to advance our interests, and that is on full display. We're happy to bring it back.
Dude, they love to talk about this part. Pete Hegseth said it. Marco Rubio said it. They said this from the White House when they had a White House conference shortly after Maduro's capture. So Pete Hegseth went on record to say, Marco Rubio, I hope the world and the U.S. is taking notice that you don't have a president that plays games, right? When President Trump says he's going to do something, he does it, right? And they both take pride in saying this. They both enjoy this. They both stand by President Trump, and they support what he's doing in the sense where it's like in public they're going to make sure that they show a united front, and they're not against the president. They're not in conflict with the president. And this is what I say when it comes to Marco Rubio and Pete Hegseth. I'm like, dude, this administration has driven a lot of people crazy, but the fact of the matter is, presenting a united front even when they're wrong is important to them. It just is.
Two quick things, okay? Number one, because we have to go, because we got to brief the House, and if we don't and they're pissed at us, you guys better defend us. That was because we were talking to you. I'll make one more point, and it's a very interesting point. One of those ships that was seized that had oil in the Caribbean, you know what the interim authorities are asking for in Venezuela? They want that oil that was seized to be part of this deal. They understand that the only way they can move oil and generate revenue and not have economic collapse is if they cooperate and work with the United States, and that's what we see are going to happen. We got to go talk to the House, guys. I
Vladimir Putin. That was a Russian flag tanker.
All right, so that's Pete Hegseth and Marco Rubio talking to the press. We will continue to follow the Venezuelan news. Let's go over to Benny Johnson now. He had a couple of memes come from this whole Maduro capture thing, and I thought it was hilarious. So let's go over there and take a look.
If you want to have a job in the next 5 years, these are the AI rules you need to know.
When what to my wondering eye should appear but a miniature sleigh, and the man in his pajamas, a dog chain tied to his wrists and ankles. What the? Stay here.
Ho, ho, ho! Merry Christmas, Clark!
What's up, guys? It's been a pretty heavy news cycle these last couple of days, so why not sit back with a bit of levity and laugh at Nicolas Maduro memes. Cinematic memes, I know we all thought that AI would bring us flying cars and curing cancer, but instead they've brought us photorealistic memes of the last moments of Nicolas Maduro as dictator of Venezuela. And I gotta tell you, who needs Hollywood anymore when you have this? I mean, check out just the quality here. It's a movie I would watch, and I hope it gets made. Maduro wife, Maduro looking out on the horizon of Caracas, having a last drink. Here's something's happening.
Copy. Maintain altitude. Target confirmed inside residence.
That's crazy.
Godspeed. Let's do it.
All units, authorization is green. City grid is down. Fence breached. You're clear. Target secured. Copy. Heading home.
Zero Dark 30, it's Hollywood. It's a thing of beauty. I'm seeing Maduro memes, and
So this is what Benny's going to be playing, Maduro memes in this video. That one was actually pretty tight. Let's keep going.
As the most popular meme template out there, replacing the Somali daycare memes, which had a great run, by the way. Still very important. This one, the Hangover, pretty hilarious. Alright, here we go. Maduro and Donald Trump and J.D. Vance, and they're taking him out. He's drunk or incapacitated or sleeping, and they're getting tattoos, and they're at the bar, and they're in a taxi, gambling, having a good time, running around at night, having a wild night. I mean, makes Trump and J.D. Vance look really cool.
Like right now,
It goes from this to downright corny. Here's the Price is Wrong for Nicholas Maduro.
All right, Nick, take a look at this. It's an all-expenses-paid escape for you and one guest to the United States. You'll soar high on the military's finest jet, featuring premium restrained seating, minimal legroom, and absolutely no option upgrade. Sightseeing includes New York skyscrapers, flashing camera mobs, and federal courtrooms. Accommodations include a cozy prison cell and 3 square meals a day.
It's perfect. I'm not sure if this is perfect. 2025, AI will be used to cure cancer. 2026, here's what AI is actually used for.
Yo, this meme is wild. I just realized Diddy's in the background. That's all I'm like. Yo, this meme is crazy work.
Thank you, Internet. I very much appreciate you. Yes. Okay. What about President Trump?
Hola amigos, yo soy su nuevo presidente, el señor Donald J. Trump. Your ex-presidente, el señor Maduro, is no longer your presidente. He kept talking, and around though, and he ultimately found out though. Anyway, we're gonna make Venezuela grande.
Bro, I am cooked. Yo, these memes are crazy. Yo,
Presidente, he kept talking, and around though, and he ultimately found out though. Anyway, we're gonna make Venezuela grande again, mucho grande, el bigger. El better than ever before. We're going to drill, baby drill. We're going to have a big, beautiful fiesta. All the tacos you want. Mucho mariachi, sexy mamacitas, and delicious margaritas. And President Trump was going to be el DJ, okay? Muchas gracias, muchachos. Y let's make el Venezuela grande again. Arriba el Venezuela, amigos. Hola.
Bro, that meme is unhinged. Like, really? And it's, yo. So everybody in Venezuela want tacos. Nobody over there eats like chicken or like, any type of Greek food. Like, you guys don't switch it up over there. That's crazy work, bro. That meme is crazy.
Donald Trump. Who's the captain now? It's good. Yep. All right. It was a wild night. Here we go. Here's another hangover. Nicholas Maduro. Hangover memes.
Wow. They got Marco Rubio.
They did the meme.
J.D. Vance and FBI.
Marco Rubio. Lead Venezuela's government transition. There you go. FAFO. Here's Maduro at And here's Donald Trump. Getting Maduro.
¡Venga por mí! ¡Aquí va España Miraflores! ¡Vas a tratar de llegar, cobarde!
We're getting close to Miraflores, boys. Locked and loaded. It's showtime, boys. Let's light them up. We're going home, boys. Package secured.
honestly. Maduro. DJ. Okay. Perfect.
Bro, I'm great. I'm cooked, bro. This one got Maduro DJing, and then you see Trump in the background. Bro, I'm so cooked right now. Yo, that was crazy.
Perfect. Maduro, I got ripped out of my bed with my underwear. I'm in America. Oh no. And yeah, no more of that. Alright. Trump's doing the meme. President Trump seizing the oil tankers.
Oh, that one's great.
And walking off with them. There you go.
Okay, yeah, that one's great. Like the other one before, that was cringy. But that one's great, where President Trump's like really big and he's walking in the water picking up the oil tankers. That one's dope.
So I was like,
oh my gosh. That's
crazy. Maduro, President Carbonite. Statue of President Trump in the middle of Caracas and Donald Trump making plantains. There you go.
Madurito.
What a timeline. It's your boy Benny. Hope you got a laugh. Everyone needs a little bit of that these days. See ya.
Hey, shout out to Benny Johnson. That was great. All right, guys, let me end the live stream with a YouTube Christian clip. We always do that. We either start the live stream or end it with a YouTube Christian clip. Tonight, we're going to be looking at Cliff Buell. Shout out to Cliff. Let's jump right over there.
Have you seen the latest on what Elon Musk says about God? Is this a step in the right direction? Watch this and let me know.
Who do you look up to the most?
The Creator.
What's your current position on God?
God is the Creator.
You don't believe in God, though, do you?
Well, I believe this universe came from something. People have different labels. If you like content like this, you'll love it over on Tuvo. It's a Christian community platform. Check it out in the pinned comment below. Have you seen the...
It's 3,200 years old, and it's got Israel on it.
Watch this.
Ladies and gentlemen, this is one of the most amazing archaeological discoveries in history related to the Bible. This is the Merneptah Stela. There was a pharaoh in Egypt by the name of Merneptah. He came right after Ramses II. And this stela, this victory statement, comes from 1208 BC. So this thing is over 3,200 years old. And if you look down here, you can see how it's kind of worn more black because people were actually touching the inscription that mentioned that Israel as a nation had been laid waste by Pharaoh Merneptah in 1208 BC. Well, how could that be if the Exodus took place in the 1200s, like many people say? The much more consistent date for the Exodus, according to the Bible and archaeology, is the Exodus took place in the 1400s BC, particularly according to the Bible, 1446 BC. That would have given the Israelites enough time to get into the land and become a nation, so later Merneptah could brag that he had beaten them. It's 3,200 years old, and it's got Israel.
And that is Frank Turek. So if you guys, the last clip that we played, if you guys get a chance, go over to Frank Turek's channel. That was one of Charlie Kirk's best friends and mentors. I have been watching Frank Turek for years. I adore Frank Turek and a lot of the work that he does. Very honest man of God, very straightforward and transparent. You guys go check out Frank Turek when you get a chance. I'll play one more clip by Cliff, and then we'll end the live stream.
Watch this. Who raised these kids? Watch this.
No, it's not. If you don't believe in God, you go to hell. Exactly, with the devil. It's hot as heck there. It's hot as heck. Hotter than the stove, as a matter of fact. Yeah, you go to hell and it's not there.
Who raised these kids? Watch this.
No, it's not. If you don't believe in God, you go to hell. Exactly, with the devil. It's hot as heck there. It's hot as heck. Hotter than the stove, as a matter of fact. Yeah, you go to hell and it's not good there.
Who raised these kids? Watch this.
That's crazy. Even children know that. That little boy killed me. He said it's hotter than the stove, as a matter of fact. All right, shout out to you guys. Remember, guys, Jesus is for everyone. You don't have to be in the church to give your life to Christ. You could do it from the altar of your heart. Shout out to you guys that have chilled and hung out with us. We will be back in a couple hours for the daily live stream, because if you are Eastern Standard Time, then it is already Thursday?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, then it's already Thursday for you. Is it Thursday or is it Wednesday?
Yeah, it's Thursday.
Yeah, I was going to say if you're EST. Absolutely. Yep, so I will see you guys in a couple hours for the daily live stream. Shout out to you guys for hanging out. Take care of yourselves. Take care of one another. Love yourselves. Love one another. Be peaceful. Tell somebody about Jesus.